Mornings with Brian Haldane continuing right now. Let's pivot the conversation over a little bit and talk about the carbon sequestration topic from a bit of a different perspective here. I want to welcome to the show Ray Gregson. He heads up the River Region Chamber. I said River Parishes Chamber. River Region Chamber. He's on with us right now. Ray, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be with you this morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing very well as well. Who's in the River Region?
So we represent and support and voice for business for St. Charles Parish, St. John the Baptist, and St. James parishes.
And that would be right along the river, to be sure. Your role there as the head of the chamber, I mean, some chambers take on, let's take care of the business that are here. Some chambers take on the let's invite more business in. You're in a sweet spot right there where you got a lot you got a lot of moving pieces going on right now on both fronts.
We do. I came in, hired on November of 2024, and what we have a lot of, obviously along the river, the infrastructure that we have and the framework we have here is just, there's a lot of opportunity. We do work with other chambers and economic development, trade associations such as LCA, Lamoga, et cetera. The opportunity here is it's plentiful. And, carbon capture is just a small piece. It's a piece to the bigger puzzle, if you will, big picture.
Talk to me a little bit about what you're hearing on the carbon capture front on both sides, because I feel like you'd be a good cross-section of, hearing back from individuals in the community, hearing from businesses, hearing what the wants are, and also what the concerns are.
So our first priority, is local, right? So in our three parishes, initially it was, what is it? There's obviously a lot of narratives. So being educated on the benefits of that and how it impacts, and just to give you two bigger fronts that we spoke about at committee and in this at the Capitol last year and this year is, yes, we talked about initially. I think it was more discussed along the lines of some of the newer projects coming, right? And after multiple discussions with our partners along the river, our existing facility is needed, right? So that they can continue to survive. And if you look, in one of the examples I give is when you look at the state's GDP, what percentage is exports? It's north of 40%. Well, if that's the case, right, and if we don't get carbon capture, some of these exports, because of laws, as you mentioned on your radio show and had guests mention this, overseas, if we lose those exports, how much does it impact the statewide GDP? It's substantial. First thing I want to talk about is, mention is our current facilities, which, by the way, look at the jobs and the average salaries. Look, they're averaging north of $90,000.
Yeah,
and I'll tie it, if you remember the high impact wage bill last year, when you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data that was tied to that bill, that's the companies within the parishes and their average pay. St. Charles Parish is number 1 on that list. St. John was 5 and St. James was 6. So I got 3 of the top 6. Ironically, the top 11 are either in the Bayou region on the river, with the exception of Cameron Parish, which was number 2, i.e. all the energy industry.
Yeah,
right?
Woodside will have something to say about that. Yeah.
100%. So yes, it's 100%. This is what we do, and it supports families. Look, personal level, I have, when people start attacking these current facilities that great people in our community work for, who have great salaries and don't even need a 4-year college degree to do so,
right,
but know this stuff inside and out with it's a talented workforce. Look, how do you not stand up for families? I don't know. So that just on a personal level, we've got to be able to do that, right? That's our people. And then, obviously, look, if you look at our workforce stuff, in our 3 school districts here, and you look at RPCC and even other 2-year colleges, even our 4-year universities, we're training the future, right? But we need to bring these things here to keep them here.
Right. Well, and that's a big part of it, is because we have all the resources right here as well. I mean, when you've got the river, when you've got the geological makeup, and then you add to that, we talk about the River Parishes Community College, when you have the workforce as a resource as well, it's important to keep everything here. So talk to me a little bit about, and Ray Gregson from the River Region Chamber is our guest. Talk to me a little bit about the relationship with the existing businesses and what they're telling you on the carbon sequestration front.
So, a lot of them are waiting to see what happens with this session. And, you've heard it, people have said it, if it falls apart in this session, as a state, we would lose north of $50-60 billion in projects. Right. I will tell you that some of those newer projects are in our region. That number that we mentioned is potential expansions or efficiencies built into these current facilities. Mm-hmm. That's not even, those numbers are not even in that 60 billion that you've heard LED and the governor mention. So there's the potential for that growth, but more importantly, while we're looking at the current facilities, I'm looking at retention more than growth, right? Because they've got to be able to continue to export, continue to increase the value of their product, so that they can not just export, but if you look at Meta, they have internal policy that says that they've got to be low carbon. So that's not even an overseas thing. That's right here in the U.S. So it's also trickled down to that as well. So, and look, here's the other thing: technology is moving at the speed of light. As you know, we're going to have companies, products. We went and toured a facility in Texas. They have a dry ice facility next door.
Really?
So not all the carbon is actually going to the ground. Guess what? Being used there, and we all looked at each other and said, "What a bright idea!" So there are technologies coming that we potentially have something coming in our region that will use carbon in the process. So, look, as somebody stated a few months ago that I was there, if you take 1 million tons of CO2 out of the air, whether you agree with the carbon capture or not, if you take 1 million tons of anything out of the air, can we agree it's a good thing?
To take 1 million tons of anything out of the air?
Yeah, but such as CO2.
Right.
And bury it. It's going back where it came from.
Isn't that part of the process that I think gets overlooked in all this? How much of the political back and forth has been a hindrance to this?
It's definitely been. I think what's helped a lot, honestly, what is the education. And look, for me, as an advocate for our people, I need to see it, right? And it helped for me to go see it. And I went and visited there in October in Texas. I ate barbecue next to it. I mean, I had to ask them, "Is this on?" And they lifted the cover and a dial, and you can see the dial. I had my ear to the pipe. My house is louder at 3 a.m. My refrigerator, I think, is louder. It really is. Blown away at it, honestly. And that's the well that we're talking about, right?
Right.
But you also have the pipeline infrastructure. Look, pipeline's the safest way to get anything there. And if you, based on the education I've been provided on this, the pipe that the CO2 goes in is the wall thickness and the way that it's done is incredible. So we got to, I don't know since when look, I'm not a scientist, mm-hmm. but I've sat in the room with the experts who understand this. Some of your professors at our universities, some of our, the scientists, they explained it, right? And people ask questions and, okay, thank you. When did we stop trusting them?
And also a good question. What's your role in navigating these relationships, being between, the local business and the legislature, being being between the local business and the big business. What's your role there? Is it, I mean, is it as a educator, liaison, all of the above?
So our first role when it comes to advocacy. So as CEO of the chamber, it's one of my job duties is advocacy, and that is first and foremost is local, right? It's educating, whether it's our local officials, whether it's local businesses, but more importantly, one of the things that helps when you talk about big business or small business that is huge is when our larger businesses use local small businesses for their services, whether it's ordering food out, no matter what it is, when they're using local, man, I can't tell you how much that helps. I mean, and go along the river, every one of them really do a good job, and some are doing even better job at it. And we can, as I tell our larger businesses, look, if you need contacts at where to get this or that, call us. We'll help you. We'll get you the contact for it. And I think that's the connection, that we build and really show that support. But, look at the tax dollars that they bring in, right? So that's based on law, what they're putting in tax dollars. But then you look at what they're donating, and you see numerous cases of this from industry up and down the river. That's not a requirement. That's not part of the legal framework. Community engagement is, but not necessarily donating. I say out of the kindness of their heart, but truly it's part of their model, but it's internal model. It supports so much. It's unbelievable. And while I say that, one other piece here is, there's not an industry in this state that I've seen, and especially in my region, that has pulled more people out of poverty. And who wants to pull more people out of poverty, right?
Right.
It's unbelievable. The stories are endless.
Yeah, and this is why we love partnering up with the folks over at Industry Makes. For one particular example, is getting the straight truth out there from the people who are living it right now. And before I get you out of here, and look, I'm not going to ask you about the science on it because, like you said, you're not a scientist. But from someone who is within the business community, what does the future look like without CCS up and down the river region?
Brian, I don't even want to think about it. That's scary. Population's a concern. Like I said, again, if CCS doesn't happen, there's some new projects that won't happen. So you could take potential future out, I think. But the bigger problem is when you say no to business, right? And I'm not saying we say yes to everything, right?
No,
there's legal and regulatory frameworks, right?
And educational frameworks as well, though, is building your knowledge base before you make a decision.
100%. And that's where we come in on the community engagement side, right? But it's our existing facilities and those average salaries. It's the tax dollars that go towards education. Look, when I look at, a lot of people don't realize this, right? You look at St. Charles Parish.
Yeah.
The tax roll from 2019 to 2024 grew from over $1.5 million per mill, the taxing bodies that we're getting, to $2.5 million per mill because of ITEPs that actually came onto the rolls. And the taxing bodies were able to lower millages from 118.5 mills to 100, just about 102 right now. While you look at across the state and you hear about the struggles some parishes are having, to lower the millage. And what's that impact? We put in that process of lower millages, put $15 million in the career and technical ed on top of what we already had.
Yeah,
there. St. John has one of the best welding programs at East St. John High School. Go look at St. James Parish.
Yes,
per capita has the most internships for the high schools in business community.
Absolutely love it.
It's unbelievable.
I completely let time slip away. And my goodness gracious, I'm just getting a little at the clock. So engulfed in the conversation with Ray Gregson from River Region Chamber. I'm poorly mismanaged clock. Ray, we got to get you back on soon to pick this conversation back up again because it's fascinating stuff. And in the meanwhile, we got to get. Thank you so much for hopping on board.
Appreciate you, brother.
No, always. We'll talk soon.